Okay, now we've had a bit of bleak news today, haven't we, generally speaking, what with the rail fares and the NHS and the old bill not being able to investigate you getting mugged anymore, and it's all a bit of a bleak start to the year, and I apologise for that, but like I always say, I'm not in charge of the news. I have scoured through the news today. I am nothing if not a dogged journalist, and I have scoured through the news, and there is not much positivity about in the UK today. It might change tomorrow. I live in hope. However, let's look across the Atlantic to the United States, where there's something of a landmark moment today. California has become the largest state in America to legalize recreational cannabis use. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, man, isn't it great it's endorsed drugs? Don't do drugs, kids. If you're listening, don't do it. It's a mug's game. It's a waste of time and energy. And actually, it's quite boring. From my experience, it's actually quite tedious. You just end up kind of miserable and bored and staring at a wall. However, some people don't feel that way. And there are plenty of people living in California who will welcome this. And whether or not you're partial to the old cannabis, this is, a great expression of personal freedom, isn't it? And that can only be a good thing. As of yesterday, adults aged over 21 can possess up to an ounce, that's 28 grams of cannabis, and grow up to 6 marijuana plants at home. Opponents say the law will lead to more driving under the influence of the drug and introduce young people to drug use. Yeah, they say it's a gateway drug, don't they? But business is eyeing what could be an industry worth tens of billions of dollars in the next few years. That's it. Lots of people thinking, well, this is the next thing. You get your cannabis and the branding right, stick it in the right packaging, advertise it on the box in the right way, get yourself a jingle, and before you know it, you're the new Nike or Coca-Cola, but in smokable form, if you see what I mean. Right, who have we got up on this? Paul Stanford, founder and executive director of Cannabis Common Sense, who helped to draft the original dope legislation in Oregon, which is where he is based, and he joins us now. Hello, Paul Stanford.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm okay. Congratulations to you. You must be very happy as someone who has campaigned for legalisation of cannabis for a long time and was involved in the original legislation. This must be a great landmark day for you.
It certainly is. It offers 38 million people in California the opportunity to buy cannabis and no longer be criminals. We don't think there's going to be a big spike in use. We think most people who wanted to use cannabis were using it already. But I think that we'll be happy that less people will be using alcohol. There's a lot of people who use cannabis interchangeably with alcohol. So we'll see less alcohol use, which will make our society a little bit safer.
Funnily enough, there's a sort of an assumption when people talk about legalization that it's difficult to get a dealer, and that there's lots of people out there who living in California right now who are they want to smoke cannabis, but they just can't find anyone to buy it from. Now, I've been to California a couple of times. It doesn't strike me as the sort of place where it's going to be hard to come by this stuff, legal or otherwise.
No, it isn't hard to come by. There are many, many stores. California has been particularly easy for people to get a medical marijuana license. So the stores have been there for almost 20 years now. So it's readily available, but a lot of people, especially older people or people who are new to the community might have trouble establishing those kinds of relationships. So having a store to go to and products to pick from is a big advantage. And just seeing the money's going into a legal market and it's regulated, you don't have to worry about pesticides or poisons. You know that what you're getting has been tested, and that provides some reassurance and peace of mind.
People are worried about driving under the influence. What are your thoughts on that? Because, of course, presumably driving high on cannabis is, not much better than driving high on alcohol.
It's not as debilitating. I don't recommend anyone to go out and drive on cannabis, but people are safer on cannabis compared to alcohol. A lot of times with alcohol, people get so drunk or pissed that they don't even know what they're doing and don't remember it the next day. That never happens with cannabis. And so we think that people using cannabis instead of alcohol will make our society safer.
And you're not worried about that. Well, tell me this: what about where's this cannabis going to come from? Is this all going to be homegrown cannabis that's in the United States? Because if not, it strikes me that they're going to have to import this from wherever it comes from, whether it's coming over from Thailand or Morocco or anywhere else.
No.
Going to lead to other problems.
California is one of the largest producers of cannabis in the world. It's the number one cash crop and has been for 30 years. It's a major exporter of cannabis around the United States. So there are many people farming cannabis and thousands of stores in the big cities. In rural areas, it might not be as prevalent, but and some of the counties can opt out. But California produces some of the best cannabis in the world, and the problem is that everything produced in each state in the United States has to be held in that state because the federal law in the United States is still prohibits cannabis. So you can't ship it interstate or you'll run afoul of federal laws and the federal courts. So each state that's legalized cannabis, whether it be Massachusetts, Maine, Oregon, Washington, or California, it all has to be produced in-state under a state license regimen. And so they track every plant. They put a little metal detector on that. All the production has to be video recorded, and those videos have to be stored for 90 days. There are state agencies that can come in and review those videos, and it's very tightly regulated, and that, of course, drives up the cost, but provides peace of mind to people who might be worried about the effects.
Okay, Paul, so tell me, lastly, you are happy about this, but what is your position on this? Are you happy because you think this is just an expression of the fabled American freedom of choice, or do you think that cannabis specifically has something to offer, society and the human condition?
I certainly do. I think cannabis is a powerful tool for exploring consciousness, and it's safe and healthy for the vast majority of people. It actually has a number of health benefits, and that's why it's been recognized as a medicine. So I think that, cannabis is actually the oldest crop. It's been cultivated for over 12,000 years and maybe over 25,000 years. It might be the whole reason agriculture started. And
Paul, it don't half make people just
oldest crop.
Don't half kill your ambition sometimes, though. Do you know what I mean? Like sitting around. People I've known who perfectly intelligent and capable people I went to school with who are still sitting around in bed sits going nowhere in their lives now because they developed too much of a taste for the stuff.
I think those people were already predisposed to sitting around. There are a lot of very productive people that use cannabis in their day-to-day lives who advocate its use from Richard Branson there in the UK to many, many others. So a lot of them are in the closet. They're afraid to talk about their use of cannabis because of the legal implications and the societal scorn. But cannabis actually doesn't really cause the amotivational syndrome that some people claim. It's just I think the people are predisposed to that and are more likely to use it. And if you're spending all your time sitting around getting high, you're not going to accomplish much in life. So it's something that should just be.
Just lastly, to be clear, next time anyone from here listening in the UK who is predisposed or interested in this sort of thing and open to new experiences is in California, there will be shops that they can literally walk into, say, I'll have, half an ounce of cannabis, please, and they will sell it to them just like they've walked into Dunkin' Donuts.
As long as they're over the age of 21, because that's the age here, they can go anywhere from Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Massachusetts. Even in Washington, D.C., marijuana is legal in that federal city, even though it's against federal law. The municipal government allows it. So cannabis can be purchased in 8 states now across the United States.
Wonderful stuff. Well, congratulations, I suppose, Paul, to you, and thank you very much for spending the time to talk to us today. Paul Stanford there, founder and executive director of Cannabis Common Cents. Check that out if you are interested. Okay, we are going to segue from drugs to music, which is a path well trodden, of course. In the final bit of this show, we'll be looking ahead to the best pop music ahead in 2018. Don't go anywhere.